Welcome back to the Oracle Sports Podcast. I'm Oracle Sports Editor Nolan Brown.
And I'm Hannah Halili.
And we have a very packed show, like always. Just before we started recording, we heard some news from Brett McMurphy of Stadium. He said on Twitter, Ivy League expected to announce today that it's moving its football season to the spring. Very interesting move from them. We don't know if it's going to have that big of a pull on any other leagues or just FBS in general. But it is the first major league to basically decide, well, supposedly decide that it's going to be moving its season to the spring. It's like 99% confirmed. Very interesting move. I feel like it's a good move because, the way things are right now, you can't just have a season as it is. I'm going to say you really can't until things start to get better. But in terms of basketball and other sports in the spring, what is it going to do to those seasons? And then also you got soccer and volleyball and fall sports. Are they left stranded? Are they going to have to move over to spring too? That would completely overload the schedule. I don't know. It feels like it's in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree with you. How does this affect all these other sports? Because, we spoke with Lauren Farr earlier in this, like in the last couple months, and she touched on this too. She was like, if football got moved to basketball, the Sun Dolls perform at every basketball game, and, they're known to be at the football games. So, we think of the dancers and the spirit squads and the marching bands, like how are they going to be able to keep up with all of these games if football is moved to the spring on top of basketball, both men and women's? So, and then just the idea of leaving other sports stranded, how does their schedule come into play? A lot of questions that we need answered.
And if we think about it viably, I mean, if you do end up moving football to the spring, then there's no sense in keeping just the soccer and volleyball season around, because then you're in the same issue. You're in the same boat with why you would be moving football to spring anyway, because you don't want people getting infected with coronavirus. So in that case, like I said, you can't just move it to the spring, because then you're going to have absolute overload. You'd have nothing in the fall. There wouldn't be, you might be able to have training camps or whatever, but spring, you just can't feasibly do that basically. And, if you don't want to move it to the spring, then are you just going to have to cancel those seasons? I don't know. It's all kind of hinging too on how things are, and like it's taking it week by week. It's really going like, how are we this week? Oh, well, let's find out how we're going to be next week. And that's what a lot of leagues and a lot of schools are looking at, is just taking it week by week. And yeah, that's really what you can do now. But there comes a point where you're going to have to pull the trigger and make a decision. Like, are we going to do this or not, kind of thing.
We spoke later in our podcast. We have our guest, Alton Walker. He is the co-owner of the new Tampa Bay arena football team, the Tampa Bay Tornadoes. And, he just had to make a big executive decision on his team, like if they were going to continue or postpone it. And, I just keep thinking of how just moving a season to a season where it's not usually there, so football to spring, that gives the players, that won't really give them a break. They usually have an off season to recuperate. It's hard on their body. They train for so many hours, and then, you go to spring, and then are they going to keep football in the fall? There's barely a break in there. And, what you were saying with, if we're just going to keep it week by week, I've been having this moment where it's a bunch of anxiety and stress, because I like to know things. I like to have things in control. I plan everything. And just the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. Like, a lot of college students, we know we're going back to school in the fall, but we're not sure if we're going to even be able to go to class, or we're not sure if we'll be able to, be in clubs that we are part of. For us, the Oracle, we're not sure if we can even meet in our office. And, we're going to be on campus, but we might not even be able to have our actual college experience that we're used to. The idea of not knowing if we're going to have fall sports, and just seeing all the decisions come up in all the different leagues. It's just interesting how the whole country's kind of just doing their own thing based on how it's going.
You mentioned that sort of anxiety about it. I mean, I've kind of now at this point in this whole quarantine thing, I've kind of accepted that we don't know what the hell is happening. Like, I mean, it's day by day. You know, it could be week by week, it could be day by day. It's just so up in the air and everything is. And, you know, I think about like with a football season possibly moving to spring, what happens to spring practice? You know, what happens to all of the other athletes who are trying to get in and out of, you know, the practice facilities and whatnot? It just makes my mind kind of turn to mush when I start to think about it. Then it get me started about trying to handle that whole schedule of, I mean,
Oh,
we'd be covering like basketball, you know, basketball, football every single week. It sounds great, but it would totally like I think it would be overload really.
it's really draining, I think, on every person involved, period, because you also think of the training facilities. You know, not only can they not have more than 10 people training, they're going to have to schedule a certain time for them to come in, and all the sanitation. And, you know, you have like 10 different sports trying to train because they all need to train. And, you know, where are they going to practice? How are they going to practice together? Oh my God. Oh, geez.
Yeah, well, if we haven't mentioned it before, it's all up in the air. We don't know what's happening, and seeing different like leagues and different that are planning on playing, and different schools that are planning on playing their season. You know, going forward, sending out tweets like everything's cool, everything's you know going, you know, with the flow, everything's going to go as planned. It's yeah, you kind of have to do that because it's like, oh well, we don't want to be downers and you know tell everyone when we don't know what's going on, but when you see that and then you kind of face the reality of man it's not looking so good and then you see that it's just like and you
Ah,
start to yeah just that have you seen that meme of the penguin where he's holding
yes.
his head? Yeah, I think about that all the time. um, but there are some leagues, speaking of leagues that we don't know what's going on, but there are some leagues that are in the process of kicking off or they will be kicked off. MLS starts today, actually. There's a first game. I have the schedule up here. Tonight at 8 p.m., Orlando City, Inter Miami. That should be a fun game. And then toward the end of the month, we have MLB back on the 24th. And then later on, we have NBA starting on the 30th. And then WNBA. I couldn't really find a date for that. I didn't look hard enough, but toward the end of the month as well. Um, so it's good to see that these leagues are coming back. Obviously, MLS and NBA are going to be in their bubble, which is so much fun to think about, just a little bubble. Um, that's going to be interesting because we've seen, and especially in the MLS, as it's gotten closer, we saw FC Dallas completely just pull out of the tournament because they had like half of their team test positive for it or close to it. And I mean, that's a big blow. We saw it in the NWSL tournament or NWSL Challenge Cup, sorry, where Orlando Pride dropped out of that tournament as well. But now we might be seeing two teams drop out of MLS. Nashville is apparently they have like 11 cases or so that they reported, or they don't really know. Excuse me. So there might be two teams dropping out of that tournament. At what point do you see all of these teams? And I don't think it's going to be, the last time we see a team drop out of any tournament. I think in the NBA we're going to have it. I think in the WNBA we're going to have it. Maybe in baseball, maybe not as much, but I think we're going to have it too, just because of the sheer size of rosters. But what happens when you have like three or four teams dropping out of a tournament, coming in and out? What happens in that sense? Do you pull the plug or do you just say, yeah, you know what, we'll go on with it?
Yeah, I feel that the question that we've kept asking throughout these podcasts is it even worth it to continue with this if it's just going to change it completely in a way that we're just not used to? And I love sports so much because I think it's kind of a part of our culture. It's a United States thing. And just seeing it change in a way that we're not used to can be kind of unsettling at some points. And, you know, it definitely brings up the question, are we going to pull the plug and not do it? Or do we continue to adapt and fix it? But then what does that mean for future seasons? Do we go back to how it was normal? Or, you know, for athletes, even like college athletes, applying for pro or trying to try out for pro teams, how does that affect their process? And, it kind of just shifts everything off.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. Athletes trying to sign on with pro teams. If you're going to have a college football season in spring, that's when you have the NFL draft. Are you going to have to shift that? How's that going to affect NFL teams? So every decision that's made is such a big domino effect. I mean, even the smallest little thing. And yeah, we're seeing, okay, maybe Ivy League might not have the biggest influence over FBS schools, but if they're the first league to do it, I mean, and they're doing it right, who's to say that, the SEC or maybe even like a group of five school or something like that would see that and say, hey, you know what? We should do that too, or group of five leagues should say that. So again, there's so many uncertainties, even with those leagues that are planning on going forward that are in motion. I think Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, the other day, he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, yeah, we can get off the ground, but I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with this virus. Is it going to cut our season short? Our team's going to drop off? We don't really know. And so that's kind of what the bubble thing is trying to do, is keep everyone safe and whatnot. But you're going to have people that are going to come in contact with people from the outside, no matter how much of a bubble you want. But we're going to go ahead and, I guess, move into our interview a little bit, just a little bit of some background on our interview. Hannah mentioned it, that we have the co-owner of the Tampa Bay Tornadoes. They're going to be a future member. Now we learned. We'll get to that in our guest will actually let us know what's happening with his team. The Tampa Bay Tornadoes, they will be a future member of the American Arena League. It's basically like a spiritual successor, the Tampa Bay Tornadoes, to the Tampa Bay Storm. And I remember as a kid growing up and going to Tampa Bay Storm games, arena football was so much fun. I loved it so much. And they used to play in what's now Amalie Arena, where the Lightning play. So they used to have the lightning rods. And every time they would score, the lightning rods would go off and there'd be the cool graphics everywhere. It was just such a fun occasion too. And the tickets were cheap. I remember they weren't outrageously expensive. And it was just a good, fun time, just having football that was different from NFL. And so hopefully our guest, his team can kind of bring that same atmosphere that the Storm will bring. A little bit different, but we'll just get right into that interview. It's a great one. Our guest this week, a little bit of something different, not really on the USF beat, but we have the co-owner and general manager of the Tampa Bay Tornadoes. You might not have heard of them yet, but they are going to be a future member of the American Arena League, and basically just a spiritual successor to the beloved Tampa Bay Storm. I know I was a fan growing up. We have Alton Walker here with us. Alton, thank you so much for joining us.
Man, thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. And I just first off want to ask, how have you been and how has your family been in this whole quarantine situation?
We've all been good, man. It's a trying time for all of us, business-wise as well as personally. So we're trying to make the best of it. And unfortunately, with the COVID coming in at the time that it did, it kind of slowed down our process of 2020 being our inaugural season. But, it gave us a little more time to dot some I's and cross some T's, which coming to offer some tickets and some things to the USF students was one of the things on our list. So, everything happens for a reason. So now we get a chance to get out to you guys.
Just real quick, aside from basically doing what you're doing with the Tornadoes, what have you been doing for free time? Any sort of free time that you've had?
Honestly, I haven't really had that much free time, to be honest with you, for about a year and a half now. Be honest with you, man. We're trying to get everything set up with getting players, hiring the right coaches, the proper front office staff. As Hannah can tell you, we're building a promo team, promo/street team that will be getting out in the community, doing some fun things with the community. We've also been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like feeding the homeless, having a turkey giveaway. I adopted a couple of families for different things. Lato High School as well as Webb Middle School, they named a room after me, since those were my two alma maters. So I've really been doing some things with them as well. So it's been real busy for the past year and a half. So I'm looking to kind of slow down a little bit around next week, week after next, slow down for about 2 weeks, and then we'll start jumping and getting back into it to get ready for 2021.
Any plans for what you're going to be doing to slow down in the next couple weeks?
Man, when I slow down, let me tell you, I'm slowing all the way down. I'm chilling. I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna stay home, watch Boomerang and Cartoon Network, and start back working out a little bit to get prepared for stuff that's coming up. And then, some stuff to ease my mind, chill with the family a little bit, try to keep everybody sane from being trapped in the house. And then in another week or so, I'll get back into my office. It'll be time to set up league meetings. Tampa is going to host the league meeting this year, so I'll be getting prepared for that and try to make a big splash when we have the 2021 season kick off in February.
So I have been part of this for a little bit. So whoever doesn't know, I've been working for Alton for a little bit, just kind of, hopping on and, watching this whole thing come into fruition. But, what is the story behind the start of the Tornadoes? I have a brief kind of background behind it, but I really want to know, especially for our listeners, how did you and Ken decide to be co-owners, and how did it just come about?
Initially, I was offered a opportunity to help build a team in San Diego, California, and in Oakland, California. So at the time, that was in 2017, and at the time, the Tampa Bay Storm was still possibly going to play. They had already had tryouts and everything, getting ready for their season. So I flew out to San Diego and did all the due diligence out there, the same that I'm doing here. And but the San Diego team started in 2018. So once I got San Diego started and fired up and everything, that same day we went over to Oakland, California to get everything set up in Oakland. Met with the mayor, met with the Chamber of Commerce, and so on and so forth. And so when we were back at our hotel room, I got a thing on the news saying that the Tampa Bay Storm was shutting down operations. And I was like, wow, after 20-something years, the Storm shutting down, I wonder what happened and everything. So I made some phone calls and found out what was going on. And so Ken was in the room next to me. So I went and knocked on his door. I said, man, listen, the Storm just shut down. He said, I saw it. I said, man, listen, we'll get this set up here, and I'm going home and do a team at home. I say, and we sat and talked for about an hour. And I say, man, it's nothing more. It will make me feel nothing but blessed to be able to bring a team to my hometown. I say, I'm doing it up here in San Diego and Oakland. I don't know anybody. I'm going to have to move up here and do all this, that, and the other. And so long story short, we took a couple of weeks, got everything set up in San Diego. A guy named Chris started running that one. He and Greg Anderson, which is still going. The one in Oakland, we gave it to Marshawn Lynch, who, of course, is in the NFL. He owns that team now. They're kicking off. They were supposed to kick off the same time we did, but now they're kicking off in 2021. And we come home, and at the time, it was around the same time that the Tampa Bay Rays were talking to the fairgrounds about bringing the baseball stadium there. And they told the Rays no. And I'm like, oh, man, we're going to go here. They're going to tell us no, and so on and so forth. I'm saying, man, should I go? And I talked to my mom, and we said a quick prayer. I went down, they told me yes. And I'm like, ever since then, everything that we were trying to do, it kind of fell into place. And so we decided to start in 2020 so we can build that brand, with following the Tampa Bay Storm footsteps and that business model that they had, a 5-time world champion and being in the business for 25 plus years. When we brought it to Tampa, I didn't want to just bring something mediocre home. I wanted to bring the best of the best. And we could have still played this season, a shortened season with no fans and this, that, and the other. But the arena football is all about the fan experience and the camaraderie and the how how fans be able to kind of do what they can't do at an NFL game. They can do it at our game. And of course, with this COVID going on, that wasn't going to be able to happen. So we decided today, matter of fact, I decided as of yesterday to, bypass everything, and we're going to kick off in 2021. So that's kind of a little brief summary of how everything started for us.
Yeah, you mentioned the Storm too, and I remember as a kid growing up, I would go to Storm games, and just the atmosphere would be so great, especially then it was I'm forgetting the name, but now it's Amalie Arena, but
Correct.
just such a great atmosphere there. One thing I noticed when I was doing a little bit of digging on the Tornadoes is that you're just explicitly coming out and saying, you want more inclusion on your coaching staff, and we haven't really seen that a lot in a lot of teams. We saw a little bit in the NFL with that one coach for the 49ers. What is so important about having inclusion, especially in this age nowadays in football?
Man, it's I'm a firm believer. I've played football myself on all different levels, and I kind of feel that in order to teach these guys to be the professionals in this game, to do what's needed to be done in this game, I had to get the pioneers of the game, which everyone you possibly know. I know you're a lot younger than most, but everyone knows Stevie Thomas when he played here for the Tampa Bay Storm. He's the AFL Hall of Famer. He was Mr. Everything for the Storm back in those days. In that following era, we had Freddie Solomon, and Freddie Solomon played with the Storm and the Philadelphia Eagles, so he was, Mr. Everything and stuff. So I think that I thought that it was important that the athletes that we bring in, they be taught arena football by the best that played the game. It's easy to get a college coach or a high school coach or someone who has played arena football in this era to turn around and coach again, but it's nothing like for a quarterback to be taught by Kurt Warner, who was a AFL Hall of Famer and an NFL Hall of Famer. Same thing in regards to what I wanted to do here in Tampa. I wanted to utilize and show people of Tampa we have superstars right here in Tampa that people just don't know about, that is going to come in and lead this team to where the Storm is now. A lot of people didn't know Coach Markham until he brought, the Storm to the 5-time world champions that they are. But everyone in St. Pete knows of Stevie Thomas. Everyone that was a Storm fan knows Stevie Thomas and Freddie Solomon, Tracy Saunders, and the coaching staff that we have, because they all played for the Tampa Bay Storm, and they're all Hall of Famers in the Storm history.
So I know that you guys have a lot of experience just going out into the community and just kind of making this idea of like, this is Tampa Bay. And, there's a theme with Team in Tampa Bay with the sports community, and we see it with the Lightning and the Bucks and the Rowdies and the Rays, and even, here at USF. And, how, in your eyes, do you think the Tornadoes fit into this theme?
Well, a lot of I can tell you one thing that we have that's somewhat unique from all of them. The one thing that we do have that everyone that's on my coaching staff, except for my co-owner, Ken Nelson, we're all born and raised here in the Bay Area. So we take everything that we do with the Bay Area to heart, because this is home for all of us. We consider the Bucks and Rays and all those teams that were here before us somewhat of the big brothers of us. You'll see during the NFL season, we cheer the Bucks on as our big brothers, because we're both professional football organizations. But how we're going to make an impact along with those guys, because a lot of things that you guys don't see that a lot of those organizations do is behind the scenes, because they do things not only for publicity, but they do it because they actually care. And I think with us adding on to what they're doing, I think it will allow the Tampa Bay area to grow financially, economically, in all areas. So I think with another sports franchise, especially once the NFL is over, once the NFL season's over, it's kind of nothing really to do. The Rays may be out of town for a game, the soccer team may not be playing, or whatever the case may be, we will still be able to give that professional entertainment that the Bay Area needs to, especially after this corona, because everybody's going to want to get out the house once this thing blows over. And I think we will allow for a good situation to happen in the community. We're going to do so many things. I don't want to put a lot of stuff out there right now, but I mean, even when it comes to concerts, after the game, we're going to have different concerts. We've already gotten commitments from a lot of celebrities and things. And then this year, which you guys have to come, and I'll make sure you guys be able to do the show live and everything. But this year, we're hosting the annual Super Bowl party. We're gonna have a celebrity flag football game that the funds are going to go to charity. Before that, we got Antonio Brown is going to play. We have some of our players that are playing. We have Chris Johnson. Some of the guys that you see in the NFL currently, they're going to come and step out and play and contribute and do some things. So those are some of the things that the Tornadoes is going to bring in light of. And you'll see some of your Bucks players. J. Howard is a friend of mine. Hopefully we can get Tom and Grunk out there to do a little something, even if it's just to make an appearance. So those are some of the things that we're going to do with our professional brothers in the Tampa Bay area.
We've seen definitely this hunger for off-season football, and you mentioned it yourself. We saw it, try and kick off with the AAF. We saw it with the old XFL, and then now the new XFL that's gone away. How has the community reacted to the Tornadoes as, hey, we're a chance at off-season football. We're an alternative maybe to the NFL. How has the Tampa Bay community itself been welcoming toward that?
Man, honestly, it's been real amazing on how everyone has accepted us. Everyone that we've encountered with the AAF and everybody coming in and shutting down. They look at the business model that those leagues produced, and a lot of people, to be honest with you, have asked us, "What make you guys any different? What make you guys success? What's going to make you guys more successful than they are?"
Oh, Alton, you muted, Mike.
I don't know. That's the only thing I can tell them, man. First thing about my team, and I'm not afraid to say it or whatever anywhere, that my team is owned by God and ran by me, and everything that every footstep and everything that I do, I put God first before I do it. And if I'm not supposed to do it, I rely on God's grace and understanding and wisdom that He gives me to guide my way and illuminate my steps. And it has not failed me from the beginning of this project to now. And so I think, I'm not sure what those guys did or what they are doing, but everything that I have done thus far, I've relied on God's wisdom and guidance to take me there. And I think with the model that we're doing, with the patience we're having, even with the COVID, it ended up being a curse and a blessing at the same time. It allowed us to dot some I's and cross some T's. It allowed us to be able to see what the AAF did. I'm sorry, the XFL, what they did and didn't do to make them successful or fail or whatever the case may be. So we won't do the same thing. So it was I think with those two components, and along with having people on my team and in my corner to kind of help me and guide me and things like that, and not, take an approach of being selfish or trying to compete with the NFL or trying to compete with anything like that. I think that will allow me to have that recipe for success, because the XFL tried to compete with the NFL. They when they first did it, they did it at the same time the NFL was going on, and then that didn't work. This time they tried to do it during the arena season when the NFL was done. The NFL was done, but they were getting NFL caliber player and locking those players into a contract. And when the NFL tried to pull those players, the XFL wouldn't let them go. It was kind of like, they trying to, be a thief in the night and steal them. I know a couple of guys that played in the XFL. We have a couple on our team currently, and a couple of Josh Johnson, matter of fact, is one that played for the Bucks. The Detroit Lions wanted to get Josh maybe the second or third week into the XFL season. They wouldn't release him until his contract was up. So, certain things like that we were able to sit back and look at and say, okay, that's something we're not going to do. That's something we will do. That's something we won't do. That kind of gave us the recipe for what the piece of pie that we're making right now. And of course, having young ladies and gentlemen like such as Hannah and yourself doing things like this, it's going, and we're going to do a lot more. I think things like this is what really helps, because it gives me the opportunity to speak to someone such as you guys from USF that will be the future players, that will be the future coaches, the future sales and marketing directors, promo models, and so forth. It gives me an opportunity to kind of hear and see everything on different levels.
I love that answer.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That was a good one.
So you say a lot, you dotted some I's and you crossed some T's. And, what's an example of this crossing I or dotting I's and crossing T that you've been doing, during this break?
Staff. We've added some new staff members that really brings a lot to the table. We have Miss Chrissy. You'll get a chance to meet her. And Miss Chrissy is a wonderful person. She used to work for the Pittsburgh Steelers. She's now here working for us. She her family is, she is Joe Paterno, which is the old Penn State coach. She is his daughter, and she also is very good friends with Drew Rosenhaus, which anyone, possibly some of your football players know, is one of the best NFL agents in the country, in the world. So we were able to get stuff like that done, where we can add her on, which she brought Drew Rosenhaus to our organization to represent our players. We were able to speak to some of the former NFL Hall of Famer Joe Namath, some of the guys that I mentioned before, some of the old arena players, Barry Wagner, Sip, all of the arena players that some of you may know, that you may not know, but it allowed me time to get some of those people to endorse us, to say, okay, yeah, these guys are the real deal. It also gave me an opportunity to speak to people and say, okay, Alton, yeah, you got something there, you're doing it right on that end. Oh no, but you're doing something wrong over there, because this should be done like this, and so on and so forth. And then it also allowed us to get some better athletes and everything into the team. Next Sunday, I'm going to sign all of the players that we currently have to their 2021 contracts. So this COVID will allow us to see, okay, who's serious about this thing, who's not. Who's going to keep their bodies right, who's going to ride with us until the wheels fall off, like we're prepared to ride with them. So if some of the players decide to sign, then hey, we'll sign them all, and we'll be ready to go in January. But those who we may lose to other teams, or we may lose because they've lost interest, or whatever the case may be, those are doors that's going to shut for them and open up for other people. So those are just a few things that it allowed me to do with bringing in new staff, working a new venue, working a new deal with the fairgrounds. That at 2:00 today, I'm going to sign that. So everything happens for a reason. As I said, this COVID was a curse and a blessing at the same time. When we pop off and play that first game, that first experience is going to be the lasting experience. And again, before that, I didn't get an opportunity to even come to USF to go to the Bulls market to kind of talk to the students there and get with the players and coaches there. So of course now, with this happening, it allows me to do that, because you guys want some things to do when you get out of class for the week, and you've taken an exam, and you done pulled all your hair out and all that kind of stuff, and been studying for a long time. We're going to have a bus that's going to come to your campus and pick your students up and bring you to the games, have a certain area for you to hang out and party and have a good little time, and then the bus is going to take you back to your dorms or wherever we decide to pick you up from. So those are just some of the things that we're working on now that I'll be getting started in a couple of weeks. So that is what it allowed me to do with this little break.
Yeah, you mentioned the coronavirus is a blessing and a curse too. We saw the XFL essentially fold because of this. I mean, the coronavirus was kind of like the final nail in the coffin for them. Not completely out of the picture yet, but definitely hard supporting an entire league during this time. What's been the biggest challenge of kicking off just an individual team in these kind of conditions?
Man, with the hardest challenge I've had with it was finding a place to practice. We like I said, we were still gonna play. Our first game was gonna be July 25th. So we were still trying to play and things like that. But then it kind of, the COVID kind of slowed down, and all of a sudden a big boost came, and Florida was like at the top with the spike. So I had to kind of revisit that, and then on top of that, the parks were closing. So we were closing to organizations, and they were shrinking the number of people that can be there, and so on and so forth. And it wasn't going to allow us to be able to get a full professional football practice in. So when we do step out on the field, we can be the best that we could be. So as of day before yesterday, I had to make an executive decision to forego this shortened season and just pop out and be, spectacular in 2021 and everything. We'll start training camp a month early this in January, so we won't have any first game jitters. But and hopefully by then the parks and everything opens up so we can practice and get everything done. But other than that, that's really, everything has been really falling into place and stuff. We have everything we need. We have the players. We have all of the equipment. We have the cake is made. We just got to put the icing on that thing.
So you did make the executive decision to postpone the season. 2021, you're going to come in strong. And
Yes.
What does that mean for the future of the Tornadoes and the league in general? Do you think it'll hinder it? Or, what do you just see happening? Like, what is your prediction?
Honestly, I see that when that first game kickoff, I honestly see a sold out building. The NFL will be, everybody is hungry for entertainment. The NFL is postponing their season on and on. When it kicks off, I can, hopefully it kicks off when the spike kind of goes down, and people who may be scared, maybe nervous, maybe or whatever about going to a game because they may possibly come in contact with someone with it. I think with these 5 or 6 months passing by, it will kind of calm down a little bit. And when people come to one of our games, see the atmosphere, see yourself running around there and having a good time, see the field laid out inside the fairgrounds and all that kind of good stuff, I think is going to really get everybody hyped. And we're going to do some stuff moving towards that season. We're going to start promoting as soon as August, September for the 2021. We're going to put tickets on sale in September, the end of September for 2021. We're going to do all these things that will hopefully allow us to, draw a good crowd, because people will have been out of entertainment for sports for a whole year. I'm talking about football, basketball. I'm watching the thing now. You had some of the basketball players and baseball players catching it and all kind of stuff. So I think hopefully by the time we kick off, everything is calmed down a little bit and people be like, yes, now I can go and sit and watch the game and don't have to worry about, catching anything and taking it back to my dad or my sick daughter or anything like that. So I think, though, to be honest with you, Hannah, we're going to sell out all of our games, honestly, and we're going to need, you guys to come out and support us, because if we win, the team that has the best record hosts the championship. So, man, we trying to host that ship here in Tampa the first year out the gate.
Heck yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Alton, we're very excited now for the season, the 2021 season, where everything's hopefully going to be in place. Like you said, the icing's going to be on the cake. Yes. Alton, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you sharing about the Tornadoes, and we're excited for the season.
Man, I appreciate you guys for having us. Hannah will be in touch with you and with everything that we have going on. I have some special things for yourself and for all of the USF students that are able and willing to attend our games and things like that. So we'll make sure we get you a lot of information as things progress so you can share it. And I'll be out to the school sometime soon once everything opens back up.
Team Tampa Bay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Team Tampa Bay. Well, we're definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening this week. We had a great time talking with Alton, learning about the Tornadoes, and we're we're keeping our fingers crossed that the 2021 season is as good as Alton says. We're so excited for it. And he brings a lot of energy, and hopefully the Tornadoes can too.
So just to keep up with all of our updates, we're heading into fall, and like we said earlier, we don't really know what's going on, but we will be covering everything that we can. So follow us on Twitter at the USF Oracle Sports, at USF Oracle Sports on Twitter. Follow us. We tweet, we post our updated stories and podcast, and just keep up with everything going on because we really don't know what's going to happen. But until next time, I'm Hannah Halili.
And I'm Nolan Brown, and I know we said that last week this might have been our last one that we're doing, and we might have one more next week, maybe two more. We're not entirely sure. So stick around, stay tuned for that one, and we'll see you guys next time.
Wear a mask.